focused specifically on farmers markets. And a lot of questions came up in the registrations. I asked people to kind of write down what they were interested in. And a lot of things that came out were kind of general: what are towns doing? How are they dealing with like handling online orders? What kind of safety precautions are they putting in for like in-person markets? How are the towns cooperating? Are they having issues with the police or other people in the town that are, obstacles to implementing the farmers markets, and how are they handling them? And some questions about SNAP and other vouchers. How are they being handled, especially like on the online environment?
Well, I'm going to sit in his room to do this.
I'm gonna.
Oops.
I'm gonna mute everybody to start out with, and then as we go into the discussion phase, you should be able to unmute yourself, and then, or I'll unmute everybody, and then we can have a conversation. So I'm going to go through a couple of intro slides, and then we'll go back to video. So if you have the capability of showing us your pretty face during the happy hour, that would be great, because it's great to see people live. So as I said, this is our farmers market happy hour. Relative to sustainable Jersey, you may have heard of a lot of different things that are going on. Even in this COVID environment, all our staff is working from home on all the great things that we were working on before. And we did implement some changes to the certification timelines. And if you have any questions, you can contact Samantha or Veronique. The energy team is going to be releasing a energy toolkits and energy efficiency outreach training. So make sure you open our e-blast that we send out every other week, and also check our website. We're adding new events and resources every day. We have offered free municipal tech coaching. If towns are trying to figure out how to do online meetings, or having a particular problem figuring out how to do something that they want to do, Lauren Skoronsky is coordinating volunteers that have a technical background that can help town problem solve. And then Samantha, who is joining us on this happy hour, she is heading up our census promotion effort, getting towns and schools to encourage complete counts in their communities, given the importance it is to federal funding for schools and all sorts of programs. So if you're interested in increasing your census response in your town, you can contact Samantha for a lot of different resources that are available to do it. She also ran a happy hour on census, and they discussed a lot of different ideas. So she would be happy to chat with you if you're interested in learning more about what your town can do. And before we get started, we just want to thank our program sponsors, our general program underwriters, and also our summit sponsors. And so we wouldn't be able to do the work we're doing without the support of these organizations. So after this happy hour, there's also still other virtual summit events. So check out our website. Also, everything that we've done has been recorded and will be posted on our website. So if you missed a session or are interested in learning what happened, you can just download the recording from our website. Great, so now we can see everybody. Welcome. And we're gonna start by, I'm gonna introduce a few people from towns that volunteered in the survey to share what they were doing with their farmers markets. And as they're talking, if you have any questions, feel free to type your questions in the chat box. And then Sam will be kind of keeping track of the questions. And after our 5 or so speakers have gone, we'll kind of answer the questions in the chat box, and then also you'll be able to answer, raise your hand by checking on the participants link on the bottom of your screen. You also can use the emoji and like raise your hand or clap if you hear something that particularly moved you. So let's get started. So I'm going to start with Shruti Desiree from Bordentown City. And I hope I
Hi.
pronounced your name correctly.
Yes, it's like fruity with an S. So Sruti. Yes, so I mean, we have been preparing for our farmers market for probably about the last like 8 months. I took over as the co-manager last year. We've been running for, it's gonna be our 11th year this year. And it was a challenge taking it over. So to say that the virus is creating more of a challenge would be an understatement. But we're rising to the occasion. So a few of the things that we are working on personally, you know, about 1 or 2 months ago, we reached out to our farmers just personally to ask, in terms of what they're kind of doing, because I know a lot of people have been asking about digital markets and digital platforms to be able to order produce or order products and food beforehand and do pickup, like pre-orders and pickups at our farmers market. That has proven a little bit more challenging for us because we don't have the manpower or the resources to set up a digital platform. It's something I've looked into. And it's just not something I can do as a volunteer because it just takes a lot of time and effort. So what we are trying to do is promote anyone, like any of our food vendors, farmers, crafters, eco-friendly vendors. We're trying to promote their own websites, their own Facebook pages where they have their own online e-commerce sort of thing set up. Aside from that, for the physical market, what we've been working on, we sent out a pretty lengthy email to all of our vendors last week just to sort of explain how it's going to work this year because, last year we were very much in tune with it being a very big community building event. We wanted live music, we want art shows, we want workshops, we want all of it. We had live yoga, and clearly a lot of that stuff can't happen this year. So what we're trying to do is explain to people that we want to create a one entry, one exit into the market. So we're sort of reconfiguring how the market's going to look physically in terms of, areas being sort of roped off, the parking lot entry having a one entry, one exit where we sort of, can count how many people come in. So we want to keep it at a 20-person capacity. We're trying to do it about one person enters in per vendor table that we have. So on average, we're going to have about 20 to 22 vendors. So we figured a 20-person capacity in, and everyone has to wear a mask. We're sort of wavering on the gloves part of it because we've noticed that, and I'm sure a lot of you have noticed that, people aren't exactly very hygienic when they're wearing gloves. A lot of people are sort of touching things and then touching their faces and touching each other. And it's not the ideal situation. So instead, we just procured a massive case of antibacterial. So we're going to actually provide all the vendors with a pump bottle at every single table. We're going to encourage them to tell every person, hey, use the antibacterial before and after you touch our product. We would love to tell people limited touching of any product. So for example, for the farmers, instead of people coming up and, touching all of the radishes and beets, like, no, the farmer, like you can ask the farmer what you're looking for and they can sort of touch it, handle it, package it for you. I understand that a lot of people aren't going to like that because I personally like touching my own produce and picking it. So I understand that, the better option would be just to anti-bac. What else have we been doing? So we're not allowing use of the public restrooms. We're not encouraging people to hang out and use the picnic tables that we have, since that's not allowed. We're not allowed to, have them sort of congregating waiting for food. So we are working with food vendors to set up a pre-order sort of queue so that they can have, like, every 15 minutes would be a slot, and people can order their pizza. They come, they pick up within that 15-minute slot. We create like an area of like a waiting area with, 6-foot distance X's where everyone can kind of stand. And then they just pick up their food and they can go. So it's gonna look very different. And, admittedly, I'm sad about it because I personally loved the community building aspect of it. But I think the really important thing for us right now is to support local farmers. And, I recently just helped with a free farm market in Bordentown the day before Easter. We teamed up with Farmers Against Hunger, and we gave out about, I think it was almost 8,000 pounds of food for free. And it was food that was getting dumped by ShopRite. And I don't know, that kind of, you know, if you saw the line of cars that were out there for it, it was like 4 hours and endless cars. And I feel like, you know, just thinking about the fact that farmers might not be able to have a distribution channel for this food, and it's going to go to waste, and they're not making money to be able to sustain, that just kills me. So I think, you know, for us, we're willing to make the changes, make the sacrifice, and sort of, you know, forge forward. We've been also working with a lot of farmers to join up together to do joint CSAs. So we just completed one. We have a flower farm, an egg farmer, a honey farmer, and then one of our bread vendors. And I kind of just threw out the idea to them to say, hey, like, you know, just to make sure that you guys are selling enough product, why don't you guys create a joint CSA and start like packaging it together? So they just launched that last week, and that's been a huge success for them. So we're throwing like everything at the fire right now.
Great, thank you so much.
Yeah.
So Bordentown City is a very small town, right? How
Yeah,
many?
about 4,500 people.
Right. So that's kind of a small town farmers market that was really a community event.
Yeah.
And how often do you run it? Like one day a
Oh yeah,
weekend?
sorry. So yeah, so we open on June 7th, run to September 27th. So it's about 17 weeks, and we're on every Sunday from 9 to 1. And it's
Okay.
always outdoors. We don't have, you know, an indoor space that we like to move it. And you know, it's really cute. It's a really cute little, a
Great.
really cute little market. And I can tell that people are itching. Like, you know, we are getting, I don't know, we've like almost tripled our following in terms of just like social media and marketing, and people are chomping at the bit to get to this market. So we're like refusing to let them cancel us.
Great. Okay, so let's move to North Jersey and Gray Russell from Montclair. Gray, you have a large year-round farmers market?
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so our season, you know, we have a regular growing season that begins first Saturday. We are Saturdays, you know, every Saturday from 8 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. And this will be our 28th season, and we have we've grown and grown and grown. Our regular growing season begins first Saturday in June and goes through Thanksgiving. But one of our farmers also is a butcher. He produces beef, poultry, and pork. Vacchiano's farms from out in near Hackettstown. And he started maybe 6 or 7 years ago. He started coming in the off season because he had followers, because he's got product that is not seasonal. And because he came starting years ago, another grower, Treelicious Orchards, had apples and pears left from the fall harvest. They would also come. And because they were there, a couple of our specialty food artisans, our foodies, as we call them, also started to come. And they've always kept a year-round group that follows them. So it's a much smaller market in the off season. But in our regular season, we have a total of 24 plus vendors. And in the off season now, we have half that. We have 12, three farmers, and 8 or 9 foodies. We call the farmers the growers, and we call the food artisans the foodies. So with the COVID emergency, the first thing that we had to change, that we wanted to change, was to provide more space for shoppers so that they could do social distancing and spread out. And to do that, we had to expand our footprint. We currently are in a parking lot at a train station in Montclair. And what we did is we took over, there's another parking lot on the other side of the railroad tracks. We took over that. And so we've doubled our footprint to enable us to leave the 3 growers, the 3 farmers on one side, so that they could expand the footprint of their individual canopies to, again, really just for social distancing for shoppers. And the foodies are now on the other side, 8 or 9 on the other side. They don't have lines of shoppers like the 3 produce and meat growers do. And at first we just expanded to give more space in the market, but we continued to have concerns that people still were kind of bunching up inside the market. So what we, as of 3 weeks ago, tomorrow will be our fourth week, what we've done is we've, for these 3 farmers, we've come up with a format where they've extended their canopies linearly, and basically their tables are lined up in a line, providing what we call cafeteria style shopping. And that means that the customer comes to their first table and moves along, and the produce is laid out on the tables like it normally would, and the vendor's staff is on the other side of the table. So the customer is able to say, you know, I want these carrots, and I'll have these potatoes and these onions. And the vendor's staff person picks those up and puts them in a basket. And then they meet at the end table is the cashier, and that's where the customer pays. Before they get into the market, they must line up because we have to limit the number of shoppers in the space. It's a large parking lot. And so we limit it to 50 people as per the governor's directive for social distancing in any one spot. And that means that people basically line up down the block and through a third adjacent parking lot. So we have like a 20-minute wait to get in generally to really keep control. And then once they're in the parking lot space, again, this is just for these 3 growers, they then line up at the respective grower they want to speak to or that they want to shop at, and maybe wait another 2 to 3 to 5 minutes to get there. Everybody must have a mask, shoppers, of course, and the vendors, everybody's masked. The vendors all are gloved as well. We try to limit pets and children. And we've had to ask several times to ask families to go back to their car. And you know, if somebody says, well, I walked here with my dog, then they're permitted in. But that's just another restriction. And we also have just this single entrance now, like Shruti mentioned. We have a single entrance and a single exit. And again, we try to direct them to the exit so that they can then cross the tracks and go to the other parking lot to go to the do more shopping with our foodies. You know, our foodies, we have a Picklicious pickler, a soup vendor, a hydro grower, hydroponic leafy green grower, and a forager who does mushrooms, etc., and kimchi and pierogies and hummus and beef jerky, and a flour vendor, cut flour vendor, like that. So those are our other types of foodies that are over there. We want them to continue to get the business, even though they're not in their regular space. So it's turned out to be very successful. We now are getting some complaints that we're too restrictive. People are saying, why do we have to wear masks in an open air market? And we tell them because that's what we're requiring, and you have to wear a mask. And people are saying, well, you know, you're losing customers because people don't want to wait for 20 minutes. And we have to tell them that's just too bad. That's what you have to do. You have to wait to get in. We have to limit the number of people inside the market. We get many more compliments on these steps that we have taken. So again, selective entrance, linear cafeteria style shopping, no touch shopping, masks and gloves, and it's worked out very well. We do provide an online forum. We started for COVID. We started a digital shopping capability, but it is really kind of, as Shruti mentioned also, it is really the farmers who really have people who want to buy from them in advance, buy and pay for their products in advance. And they have their own individual websites. And I think that's where most people really go to. We do have a dairy products, cheese, basically a cheese vendor who does a lot of online ordering. But for the 3 vendors, people can order and pay in advance, and then the vendor makes a bag. In the case of the butcher, you see, he can't put that out in advance for them to come do sort of curbside pickup because he's got frozen meats in there. Beautiful product he has, very expensive, but really, really wonderful stuff. But he won't, you know, he's not going to put that out. So he has to keep that frozen for the customer, those customers that pre-order and prepay have to then call that vendor and say, I'm here. And then he sends a staff person outside the market, because we have some people who don't want to enter the market, even with the safety concerns, don't want to come in. So that's working out okay. And that's it. Our concern right now, so I'm sorry, so today in our local paper, the Montclair Local it's called, was a really nice letter to the editor from a customer raving about what a great job we've done, and we were really pleased to see that. So our concern is June 6th, D-Day, when the regular season opens, and we will virtually double in size. So we do have one more grower that's coming, an organic grower that we've had for 15 of our 28 years, very popular, and he's ready. He's actually going to start next week, not tomorrow, but a week from now. But the other foodies, we're going from 12 to 20. I'm sorry, we're going from 9 to 18 of them, or more. It's almost 20, I think. And so their spacing now in their adjacent parking lot will be a little bit tough. We still have to kind of work out kind of a footprint map to work that out. But so far, the public seems really, really pleased.
Thanks, Gray. Let's move on to Joanne Held from Pennington.
Unmuted. Okay, thanks. Yeah, I'm with the Pennington Farmers Market. We'll be starting our 12th season in June. It would normally, we were planning to start May 23rd, but we felt that we needed a couple of extra weeks to get ready and for people to feel ready, because we have no winter presence like Gray has. So we think people need to overcome their hesitation to some extent. And also we needed time for our vendors to do what Shruti was saying, to try and figure out how to do as much online pre-ordering as possible. We started asking questions about a month ago, saying what are other farmers markets doing? So it's really fun to hear what everybody else is doing, and from scratch kind of had to make up a plan. But then we started reviewing other people's plans and cobbled together our own. Our first step, once we had a rough draft, was to check with our health department to make sure that they were comfortable with what we had in mind. And it was also good to establish contact with our health department, because over the winter, the health officer we're used to retired, and in not only a new person, but in a whole different location, in a different town, is our new health officer. So we needed to become acquainted with her and establish, a relationship, so that we don't get the plug pulled on us all of a sudden. Fortunately, she was happy with the plan we had. It covers a lot of the things that Gray and Trudy were talking about. We have a single entrance, a single exit. So it's one way, it'll wind past all of our vendors. We are a fairly small market. Even in the high season, we would only have 8 or 10 vendors, plus, of course, music and art and nonprofits and all of that. But so for starters, we're only doing about 5 vendors, and they all have to be food vendors. Our health officer would not let us have artists or jewelry makers or people who are making clothes or anything like that. It had to be fit within the constraints of, this is a essential business because you're selling food. And so we're sticking to essential businesses, including, of course, our local vineyard. They're also considered essential, so that's a good thing. And a bakery, and so looks like we'll have 5 to start on June 6th. That's our big day too. Masks will absolutely be required. We're going to have a few extra on the side, or some bandanas that we're buying from the 4-H, so that if people don't come with a face covering, we will give them something. Very carefully. We will, I think, avoiding hand-to-hand contact is one of the things I've been reading about lately, is the thing that you want to absolutely avoid. And so I just practice writing it out. It says something like, if we're giving you your bandana, you would step back. Our market manager would put it on the table, step back. You would step up and take it. So that people, and the same thing will happen when people are paying, that you would step up, leave your credit card or cash on the table, step back, and then the vendor would step forward. All this choreography, step forward, do the transaction, leave your purchase, step back, and then you would pick everything up and move on to the next table or continue out of the market. We'll see how well we can train people to do this, but we're going to be emphasizing it in our pre-market email blasts that go out for a few weeks and see if we can get people to understand. We also we'll have extra staff on hand to call out instructions from a safe distance to people. So that's, I think, somebody had mentioned limited, I think Trudy, you'd mentioned that there might be limited touching of the vegetables, but we're saying nobody touches anything. The vendors pick everything out and put it together. Our primary vegetable vendor, the reason why at least half of the people come to the market, has been taking orders already as part of her CSA. And so she will be continuing to take orders, and we'll have long tables with the bags already set out and, with the person's name on it, alphabetical order. So that should make it go easier. I'm still nervous though. and hearing other people talk about what they're doing and how they're managing it is really helpful. I also am thinking of our preliminary list as the draft list and constantly updating, changing, clarifying. And I expect that after the first week, things will change and there'll be more requirements, because I just don't see how we could anticipate everything in advance. So that's kind of what we're doing. Barbara Kirsch is also on our board. Barbara, did I miss anything?
No, I don't think so. It's been very sad having to go back to the nonprofits who were excited all winter to look forward to their scheduled date and of course they're not making money now. So many of them were really looking to see the community in the nice summer sun, get volunteers, donations, and many of them are very sad that they probably can't be part of this, at least until well into the summer.
Yeah. Okay, great. Let's move on. There's two more people that were volunteered to share. Nelson from Metuchen, are you on? Nelson?
Oops. Hi.
Hi.
I just joined. Sorry, I joined a bit late.
Oh,
I'm here.
great. Thank you. So we're just going around, and people that volunteered on the survey are just sharing what they're doing. In Metuchen, is there a drive-through only, or is it a walk-in and drive-through, or just walk-in?
Drive-through only.
Okay, so I think you're the first one to talk about that. So do you want to kind of tell us what you're doing and what challenges you faced and how you overcame them?
Sure. So we're a fairly small market, and we started small with the online portion of this whole, virtual type of pickup market arrangement. And it's a good thing, because I think the most difficult logistics of the whole market is the pickup, because you've got all these cars and multiple vendors, and they're lining up and they want to, jump ahead of the car in front of them to get to the next vendor because they didn't order from the one in front of them. And you've got a danger of cars backing up from the parking lot onto the main road, which the police frown upon. So we're working out those bugs. And I think initially there's a huge just gut reaction of people to order like crazy the first 2-3 weeks we were open, which caused a spike in the cars. And now things are settled down. And I think we're ready for like a phase 2 where we bring in more vendors, and it'll proceed in a more orderly fashion, because now the bulk of our shopping population understands how the whole system works. Because there was a confusion at first, you got a new online environment, people to figure that out. You got a new pickup process, people to figure that out. So we're along the curve, which is nice in that regard. And then just, I guess, to add a footnote, we're a nonprofit, so we've got a board of trustees. The board and I met last night, and we are thinking about what a next phase market might look like, which is actually what a lot of you folks are probably doing right now in terms of people getting out of their car, going up to vendors and doing some kind of controlled interaction. And we just decided we're not going to do that. We probably wouldn't be able to find volunteers. We're just sort of conservative by nature. So we're sticking with drive-through even as the regular season comes upon us. And I'm just going to have to reach out to my regular season vendors and say, this is how we're doing our market. And we just hope that you can adapt your business model to include the online ordering and this controlled pickup. And we'll see how it goes.
Okay, great. Sandy Kelly from Collingswood, do you want to add what you're doing?
So I invited, I do the marketing, some marketing for the market and the Borough of Collingswood. The market is a borough project in cooperation with the Friends of the Farmers Market. So I invited our market manager because he's the mastermind behind our farm to car operation that we launched last week. So I really would like to punt to him to get into the details of how he organized that and how it worked last week. And they're doing during the week as well. So I think they're learning as they go along. But David, if you'd like to jump in, I see that you are on, I think. Hello, David. I see him on there.
David?
He's muted. Maybe he has to unmute himself.
Yeah, I'm muted. I
Oh,
apologize.
there he is. There he is.
I'm here. I'm in the top row on my screen. I don't know where I am on your screen. I have a balloon arch behind me.
Yeah, there you are.
We're entirely a drive-through market. We designed it that way from the start. We got permission from the Camden County Board of Health to do a drive-through market. We invited all 28 of our farms to participate. None of our other food vendors, none of our other business vendors, just the farms. We got roughly 20 to sign on. Some are just not ready for the season yet. Berry farmers, for example, orchards, they're not ready. But the produce farmers and the meat farmers and the horticulture farmers, they've joined us now without fail. And we started a 4-market week. One on Wednesday from 8 to 10 a.m., one on Friday from 8 to 10 a.m., one on Saturday from 8 to 10 a.m., and one on Saturday from 12 to 2. So we have just 5 spots for vendors each of those markets. We started on Saturday, May 2nd, right on time, when we always would start our market. We're usually a 100 space market, but about 50 vendors. And we started with 5 on Saturday morning and 5 on Saturday afternoon. We saw 500 cars in the morning. We saw 500 cars in the afternoon. The morning went as smoothly as silk. The afternoon was a goddamn nightmare. And it all came down to how well our farmers were prepared to distribute their products. In the morning, everybody was ready to go on alphabetical name basis only. And in the afternoon, did I say afternoon? In the morning, that went well. In the afternoon, one farm decided to go with order numbers and had no system for organizing distribution. They had 250 orders placed and no method whatsoever for finding those orders in the pile that they had produced in front of their, and so we had backups of an hour. Well, we know it can work because it worked so beautifully in the morning. And so that farm will be back on Saturday again tomorrow, but they're putting everything in boxes. It costs a lot of money to put everything in boxes, but they're doing that, and they'll alphabetize those boxes. And we expect to have a smooth morning and a smooth afternoon. We had the cooperation of a company locally that helped us build a one-stop online marketplace where all of our vendors could open a store if they chose to, or where they could have a presence that led visitors to their own already established market. So we have centralized shopping. We printed, I guess I can't show you because of my background. I'll have to take that out. We printed about 1,000 of these cards for the first day of the market, inside sheet protectors so they can be cleaned and disinfected. We placed one on the windshield of every car that entered, and with that on their windshield, our farms were able to recognize their shoppers as they approached the table. Most of our farms were able to serve their customers within a minute or so by seeing the card, pulling the product, and placing it into trunks. So we're strictly drive-through. We don't expect to do anything other than drive-through unless things get radically different, better. But for now, we're happy to be able to serve 20 farms throughout the week. And with plans, if restrictions limit, to add our local food businesses, our secondary food processors, and those who use Jersey Fresh in their products to grow the market a bit as we can. But right now we're 4 meetings, 2 hours each, 5 vendors each, a total of 20 for the week.
Great. So one other person said that you might be able to make it. Rebecca Hirsch from Highland Park. Were you able to come on? I know she has her markets on Friday, so she said she wasn't sure she could make it. So let's turn to some of the questions. Sam will kind of ask some of the questions that came up, and then you can also click on participants on the bottom of your screen and raise your hand, and we'll try to acknowledge you just so that we can kind of keep the conversation organized. Before we get to the questions, I'm interested, one of the things that people were interested in was how they were dealing with SNAP, electronic payments, and also the farmers market vouchers. Does anybody have any tips on dealing with that?
I can, should I respond, Renee?
Yeah, sure, great.
Yeah, so from Montclair, so we accept SNAP cards, WIC checks, and seniors farmers market vouchers during the regular season, throughout the regular season. For us, again, that begins in a few weeks, in June 6th in our case. We don't have the capability of providing that in the off season. It is really just during our regular season, and all of our growers, by next week we will have 4 farmers, all of whom accept SNAP, WIC, and the vouchers. The vouchers that come from Essex County don't seem to arrive until July and maybe even August. And the WIC checks, but SNAP and WIC are both available. At the Montclair Farmers Market, we actually, thanks to a grant and some of our own resources, we actually provide a double bucks program, which means that the SNAP or WIC or senior participant swipes their card, let's say, for $20, they get $40 of Monopoly money that they can spend at the market on fresh, healthy food. And that, again, will begin when the full market opens in June and will last through till Thanksgiving.
Wow, that's great. And where did you get the grants from?
The grant is from Partners for Health, which is a health.
That is mostly in northern Jersey, I think.
They're mostly in northern Jersey, and it's distributed through City Green, is who receives the money and then distributes it to us. But I will tell you that we've outgrown the grant. We're so grateful for our grant from Partners for Health, but we've outgrown it because we don't receive the money until, again, a little bit after the market starts, and it runs out by September, October. for us to be able to double the value for these customers. So the market, we have our own bank account, and we've been taking it out of there so that we can make it available as soon as the market opens in June, beginning of June, and we will last all the way till the end, until Thanksgiving.
Great. That's great. All right, Sam, you want to start asking some of the questions in the chat box?
Yeah, sure. Well, the great thing about the chat box is that I think a lot of people have seen some of the questions that come in, and everybody's been kind of chiming in and responding, which is really, really great. So, but one of the things, one of the questions we did get that kind of builds on the payment method is someone was asking if the markets are accepting cash, if only cards are being accepted. What's kind of going on with that?
So maybe if you can use that little emoji on the bottom, reactions. If you are accepting cash, you want to just hit the thumbs up button, and it'll give us a feel for which markets are. Okay, so there's.
I mean, I got to qualify that by saying all of our vendors prefer cards and use cards. But when the full market opens, a couple of the vendors do accept cash and want that. But right now, all we use are cards.
All right. So this is another, I think, hot topic in general. But there were a few questions about market policies on reusable bags. Whether or if your market had formerly required that you bring them, if you're still making people do that, are you supplying other bag options for customers?
Yeah,
how you're
I've been
handling
thinking
that.
about that actually, and we don't have a policy yet, so I'd be interested to hear what the others are doing. But if we're saying that you just point and they put the stuff, they package it up for you, I have a feeling that most of the vendors really will have to use their own bags. But we don't have a policy yet. I think it would be interesting to hear. Pre-orders are obviously going to be bagged in advance.
That's right, yeah.
Does anybody with walking markets have a policy about bags?
We do. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So we're Ventnor City Farmers Market, and we went plastic free a couple of years ago, and we want to maintain the plastic free policy. So we are encouraging customers to bring their reusable bags. We also sell bags at our market, and our plan is to have the vendors with an additional table in front of their product table to separate them even further from customers, but also to use as a platform to place the product. So the customer will point to product, the vendor will place the product on the table, and then the customer will put the product in their own reusable bag. And we know that there will be a lot of farmers who, like when they package up tomatoes or something that's a little more tender, they'll put those in paper bags first and then put them on the table for the customer to put into their reusable bag. What did you say? Was there something else? So that's pretty much how we're approaching it.
Great. Chris, did you want to say something? Okay. Can you?
I just have a question as a farmer, because similarly at the Summit Farmers Market last year, we got rid of plastic bags, which we totally agree with and are on board with it. But now as a farmer with everybody pre-ordering, it's hard to put like lettuce in a brown paper bag. Like, what are other farmers doing? You know, we can use wax boxes, but they're not recyclable. And they don't recommend reusing the wax boxes because of the COVID right now. And so as a farmer right now, it's like we have the approval to put each item into a smaller produce bag and then put it into a brown bag. But now we're going to use 5 plastic bags instead of just using 1 thank you bag. Like, this is pre-order, so we don't have the customer's bags. So what are other people doing?
We're letting people use plastic bags until we solve bigger problems than that.
Well,
We want to-
that's what we want to do, but we have been instructed that we should wrap it like in saran wrap, which seems counterintuitive. Like what?
We're
but-
ignoring that advice and going ahead and letting farms use plastic bags if they want to.
Just for the pre-orders, you know.
Yeah. We had.
Go ahead.
We actually had a plastic bag ban that was scheduled to be implemented on April 15th. It was voluntary for 6 months. So obviously with everything that has happened, that has been a setback, and our town felt that we needed to extend that right now rather than put more strain on our business community, including our farmers that participate in our farmers market. So we are still encouraging every business that is open to do the voluntary, ban and practices, but we're not obviously going to start fining businesses right now. So we have extended the permanent resolution.
Yeah, in Montclair, we have a plastic bag ban that is now already in effect. But just like the state legislation, the plastic bag legislation, it excludes produce bags for inside a supermarket or in any market. This, what we're trying to eliminate is shopping bags, plastic shopping bags that we, would normally just be handed out at a pharmacy or at a supermarket. Those are not allowed, and we don't provide any kind of like a bag. We don't provide any shopping bags of any sort at the farmers market. So everybody has already for years brought their own bags to the Montclair Farmers Market. We also do sell Montclair Farmers Market's bags, cloth bags. But the farmers, at a supermarket, shopping for produce, or at our farmers market, it is very difficult to keep the carrots and everything, if you're buying multiple onions or potatoes, to keep them loose. And Joanne asked about the no-touch. The no-touch, the shopper points at the carrots and the onions. The vendor puts them in a basket that belongs to the vendor, and that just gets them down to once the basket fills up, they take it down to the cashier, where they're all unloaded. And then it's up to the shopper to put them into their bag that they have brought with them. And they might be in the small, lightweight, little plastic bags to get there. But nobody has any paper or plastic shopping bags. None of the vendors do. We actually had some pushback in Montclair of people complaining with COVID that they were concerned about the reusable bags, and loading it up yourself, I'm not sure how that would make it any safer, because you're still putting it on a platform. So, but that's our status. We don't provide bags. The public always brings their own bags.
But what about for the farmers who are doing pre-orders? What are they putting these pre-orders in?
That's a good point. So they do put them in paper bags. That's true. They do. The pre-orders do go into I think either a box.
But
or
how do they
bag.
put their lettuce, like all their wet vegetables, into paper bags and then?
No. So again, the lettuce or individual produce would be in let's call it a produce bag. Plastic bag, and that goes into a box. Tell you the truth, I can't quite see it in my head. I'm not quite sure. I think they use either a cardboard box or a paper bag for it all to go into for pickup.
Nelson, what about in your drive-through? How are the orders prepackaged?
Pretty much the people have described. Mostly in bags, I think, not so much use in carton boxes. So sort of minimalize the amount of packaging.
And yours, what kind of bags?
Plastic bags, or whatever the vendor brings. I mean, there's no regulations that we've set, so whatever they find convenient.
Okay, are there any other?
Yeah, so this was an interesting kind of thread here, but there were some questions about providing restrooms, not necessarily for the farmers market attendees, but for the vendors. So I don't know if anyone wants to comment on whether or not any of the public facilities will be open close to your market, or whether you're thinking about getting a porta-john, anything like that.
Well, so far our drive-through market is set to be a 2-hour window from 10 till noon. So I think most vendors can hold on for 2 hours. But certainly if we went beyond that, we would inquire about borrowing access to a VFW facility that's at the edge of the parking lot. Because we've moved locations. We used to have access to a washroom with no problem. So it's a problem we're thinking about. We haven't gotten to that point yet.
Does anybody else have anything to say about that question?
We do provide, we're a 6-hour market. We have a porta-john just adjacent to the market, and that gets used by the vendors. The public is permitted to use that if they want to, but generally the public. We're in a residential, or I should say a pocket business district surrounded by residences, and so I don't think the public uses that very much, but that is available, and our vendors do use that.
Okay, great.
So another kind of question that seems to be coming up is what are some of the strategies that you're using to promote your markets right now, and getting the word out about how you're going to handle customers at the market?
We've got 10,000 followers on our Facebook page, and 8,000 or 10,000 regular recipients of a weekly email blast. So our customers had no problem figuring out what we were up to.
We were also broadcast live. Our first market was broadcast live from MSNBC. So not that, we were getting a national audience to our market, but that was kind of cool.
That's nice.
Yeah, we do have a very large following that David and the borough have worked on building over the years. So they kind of know where to find us.
Oh, that's great.
We have the benefit of your history too.
We rely on social media and our opt-in newsletter as well to get the word out.
Yeah, we have a Facebook page in addition to a website. And we also, I started the market in 1993. So it's not as though people don't know about the Montclair Farmers Market in our region.
We have social media, of course, and as somebody mentioned earlier, there's a lot of people have found us online over the last few weeks. So we have a bigger following. But we also, next weekend, next Saturday, was supposed to be our local community street fair. It's, of course, it's gone virtual, whatever that means. And one of the things I'm told is that they will have a virtual Main Street in which people can go and learn, sort of click on the people who would have been there and go visit their website. So we need to really beef up the front page of our website, I think, between now and next Saturday, so that people can go there. Maybe they'll be driven there by the virtual street fair, and we'll learn more about what we're doing.
Great. Are there any other farmers in the happy hour that want to share what they're doing or their experiences so far? I think there was someone from Cherry Grove Organic Farm had signed up. Are you on?
That's me.
Oh, okay.
And we're really just getting started for the season. So I was kind of hopeful just to, hear, what other people experiences have been as far as what has worked and where you've had run into some kinks and backups and what you're doing to resolve it for the future.
Are generally your farmers happy with the revenue that they're generating by participating in the farmers markets?
Historically, before, it remains to be seen what the season has in store for us, but historically we've been very happy with our markets. It's just trying to logistically maintain that volume that we do with all these new logistics in place. And really David kind of spoke to it the most, and I emailed him separately. They used to do 1 4-hour market But now they've broken it up. It sounds like, David, if I understand you correctly, over several days to try and meet that volume. And even with that, with one guy doing 250 boxes and having a kind of bottleneck, and so.
Those 250 boxes were a problem just because of the disorganization of the distribution. But they wouldn't have begun to match the volume he usually does. We have vendors who are routinely doing $5,000 a week and more in those 4 hours that we usually did, because we have 5,000 or 6,000 shoppers at our market. But there's no way we're going to be able to even remotely reach those kinds of numbers. It's not going to happen, no matter what we do.
Right.
We're doing our best to provide some kind of outlet for them that can still capture a retail market, but they're all going to suffer no matter how many cars we get through.
Right, which is what we're anticipating happening for our season.
Yeah, it's going to slow things down considerably.
Yeah.
Paige, did you want to say something?
Yes, hi. I'm from out by where the Ventnor Farmers Market is. We run a farmers market in Linwood, which is just outside of Atlantic City. We also are expanding. We've done a few markets in Atlantic City, and we're expanding to Pleasantville this year. So we're in a great spot right now, because Linwood is drive-through, pickup, order online and pickup only. So David, I've been stalking you on social media, and I appreciate it. But I like the idea of the sign, but I was concerned about the logistics of sanitizing those plastic sheets.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is we're asking our people to put the sign in the window. So I literally made a video of me writing my name and what vendors I purchased from, putting it in the dashboard and showing, like with my kids, like here's the table, you drive up, you don't have to open your window. So I'm finding the videos people really like, and that's how we taught our customers to use the online system. I don't know, are you guys on Local Line also, or no?
I don't know what Local Line is.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, it's a company out of Canada. Oh, I think it's Metuchen that's on Local Line also. It's a
there's a bunch.
Yeah, we're through Edible Jersey, and our first market is tomorrow. So I can't speak from experience yet, but all the orders are in, and we had over 150 orders for the first week. So we're really excited about that.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paige. Anybody else?
Well, we did get one other, I think, good question, which is, has anyone considered partnering with recycling companies or municipal composting programs to help recycle some of these materials that are being used to pack up the market items?
No.
Again, I think the vast majority of the public that is ordering in advance and getting a box or a bag to take their products home is then bringing those back for reuse, either giving them back to the farmer so that he can reuse them. I mean, our farmers take their egg cartons back, they take their the cardboard veggie boxes back, and there is no recycling of compostable plastics in New Jersey, is not permitted. So like that, I think those the produce bags are people reuse them. They bring them back and use them over. They put them in their reusable shopping bag and bring them back for when they're collecting more produce.
Did you get that one?
Okay. Did anybody else have any other questions? I just want to check. Sam, do you see
I just
anything else?
wonder about the question about the reusable bags. I know our church in town. Can you hear me? Is that okay? Should I talk?
Yes,
Okay. Our church in town, they had a real, they spend a long time wiping every bag they give out. So, I mean, the concept of someone reusing a bag that they've put things in one week and then bringing it back to the farmer really seems dangerous. I don't know. I mean, because you don't know where that person's been and you don't know where the box has been. you know, it's not. I don't think anything that I've heard is dangerous, but I just sort of that one kind of threw me for a loop. I think everything has been great so far. So don't take that word is a little loaded now. And yeah, anyway. So I don't know how anyone wants to respond to that, because I think same thing with cash. You know, you're touching money, you're touching. I think the idea of having a table where they put it in front of you and then the person bags it up, that seems very reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I've taken away from this.
Yeah.
I would just advise everyone, if we have just a minute left, my parting comment would be try to solve the big problems first and not get distracted by the tiny things like whether a piece of plastic can be sanitized or not. It's important question. It would be the best question for a market under ordinary circumstances, but right now we've got to figure out a way to keep the markets going at large, and then deal with the small things as we go. We had people complaining about cars idling, and I get it. I understand that. A drive-through market would never be anybody's ideal, but if that's the best way to keep people safe and to keep people distant, we'll accept the fact that our cars will be idling in a parking lot for a while as a small price to pay for the bigger success of keeping customers coming to our farms. And then as we get better at cycling cars through, we'll have less and less idling, and that problem will solve itself the best it can. So big problems first, small problems later. Don't get distracted by how to recycle bags. Keep your eye on how to get customers for your farmers, and let the small things go for a week or two. Unless you have the luxury of lots of time to solve all your problems before you open. We kind of had to open. We're flying a plane now and building it as we fly. So that would be my suggestion.
So that's the typical, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
Get that.
Yeah.
But you know, there are kind of baseline safety measures that you do need to take.
No question.
Okay, well, it's 4 o'clock and on a Friday, so I really appreciate all your participation and putting this, a recording of this online. And we also will copy what was in the chat box and send it all to everybody that registered so that they can kind of take advantage of all the conversations that were going back and forth.
So, excuse me, I just had a last question. Is there a way in this environment to take a quick vote?
Yeah, sure.
I'm
You can
curious.
raise your hands. There's a
There's a
Well, not
polling
everybody's
feature.
got their video on.
there's something
Yeah.
called reactions. You
Oh
can
yeah, I can do a
stand up.
poll. We can try doing that on the fly.
Could you
What
do that?
question did you want to ask?
I just want to know which markets are going to continue with the drive-through model this summer, which ones are going to the sort of shopper, pedestrian style.
The way to phrase that question would be, how many of you will gladly transition back to a walkthrough if you can? And I think we'd all say yes. Nobody's planning on sticking with the drive-through if we're permitted to go to a walkthrough.
Well, permitted, you know, by who?
Doing drive.
For us, it's the Board of Health.
I think our board would be most conservative and just stick with drive-through. But anyway,
A lot of it probably depends on what
However
the
you wanna
size
phrase
of the market is.
Right. Our Board of Health actually encouraged us to consider a drive-through market, and there's no way we're in somebody's parking lot. He has his customers coming and going. We can't completely tie up his parking lot so we can have a drive-through market. And also we're small. We have, on a exciting day, we might get 300 customers in 4 hours. So we don't have to deal with a huge number of people. And so we will not be going to drive-through.
So, I mean, a lot of times it's just kind of, you're at the mercy of the person that has the ultimate control in your jurisdiction. And you can see from, you know, your peers here that other towns are doing it. So
right.
you know, and sometimes that's a good way to go back at the person that's telling you can't do it, to say, why, if that's the rules, then why are all these other towns doing it?
Well, especially since we're all New Jersey too. It's all in the
Yeah,
same state.
right. And there
Yeah.
are concerns with drive-throughs because then people that don't have access to cars can't access the market.
We actually have, yeah,
We
go
have
ahead,
bike
David.
delivery.
Okay.
Yeah, we offer, like, our board members will take their orders and pick them up and deliver them.
Oh, that's great.
We get exceptions, yeah.
I think our constraint in Pennington is we are hosted by a private store,
Mm-hmm.
and we have to follow his rules or we can't be there.
Mm-hmm.
And his customers come first.
Wow, David, you thought the borough was bad.
Yeah, that would be tough. That would be tough.
And I've heard that some towns are having hard time with drive-throughs in terms of police and like traffic management and stuff like that, which Nelson, you alluded to. So
Yeah.
it's very,
So luckily we have a big parking lot too, so cars can queue up, you know, to a certain degree, but eventually it could be an issue.
yeah.
Folks, I want to thank everybody for getting together, and especially for getting this panel together. But I've got students waiting for me in another Zoom room, so I've got to scoot. But thank you so much. It was really a pleasure, and thank you, Sandy, for hooking me up and inviting me.
Thanks, David.
So,
Thank you.
Thanks.
you know, Nelson, it might be a good idea. We can look into maybe doing a survey of all the people that have been approved for the farmers market action, to see kind of what their plans are. You know, are they doing the market this year and how they're doing it? It would be interesting to see, you know, like you said, how it splits between drive-throughs and walk-throughs and off.
Yeah, because obviously some people now are only doing drive-throughs, but they may, as David said, may want to transition as soon as the powers that be permit that.
Mm-hmm.
But then already some markets are already doing the pedestrian model, and that'd be interesting to know who those people are, just the counts.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Just as long as you don't go to our health officer and say, why did you let her have a walk through market?
That's right. No names. It's all anonymized.
Yeah, be anonymous. Okay, well, great. Thanks again for
Great.
everybody that participated. And we do have a bunch of other virtual summit events. Please check our website, and we are adding new ones, even maybe outside of what our virtual summit is. There's a lot of going on at Sustainable Jersey in the next couple of months. So please stay tuned and check our website. And thank you so much for everybody and all our people that shared what they were doing. We really appreciate it. That's what Sustainable Jersey is all about, like sharing with each other for the greater good. So thank
Great.
you so
Thanks
much.
so much.
And have a
This
great
was awesome.
weekend.
Bye, you all. Stay safe.
Bye, all.
Bye.
Be well, everyone.
Hey, Sam. Oh. Sam, just stay on, okay?
All right, I need to, the recording is going to continue until the meeting is ended.
Oh, okay.
Oh, hold on, stop recording, hold on.